Arriving in North Africa, I was surprised to find this little Spanish protectorate called Ceuta that we landed in. Just a little place, just a few square kilometres, a little Spanish protectorate in the top of North Africa in Morocco. And it belonged to Spain, this little tiny area. It was quite surprising actually. And tiny little place, and we did a little bit of bargaining, as you can see here. Our friends bought a few things, but it definitely had that Arab feel about it, which is what we were expecting. And shortly after, of course, we crossed the border into Morocco. And our first port of call, once we got into Morocco, was a place called Larache. And we began to make a few friends, with some of the locals. And we thought this guy, Aziz, was a pretty cool young guy. He was a nice young man. We were getting on well with the locals, and apart from the roadside hasslers as you're driving down towards Larache, there's all these guys stand on the side road, give me cigarettes, give me cigarettes, give me cigarettes, Apart from that, everything seemed to go pretty smoothly, and we arrived at this place called Larache the night. Well, we woke up in the morning and up pumping Larache. There was the waves right in front of us, just like we had at La Bar. These perfect waves just peeling down the point right in front of us at this place called Larache. And we had some magic waves, and then finally we think, let's just continue on with our journey, and then we head down to a place called Kenitra. Beautiful waves again. Oh man, this is awesome, man. Fantastic weather, and man, I'm really loving this. This is amazing, beautiful scenery, beautiful weather, beautiful waves, nice people, fantastic. Had a bit of a laugh that evening when we started to feel a bit sort of woozy and floaty and spacey, and man, what's happening? What's going on here, man? Everything looks so spacey, man. What's going on here, man? Well, we find out the next day, we're informed the next day, that the cookies we bought from the local Moroccan cookie house and Moroccan markets were hash cookies. They were hash cookies. And we ate them like biscuits. We had about 4 or 5 of them with a glass of milk, Oh my goodness, of course you could sell hash and all that sort of stuff then. There was no law. Buy it anywhere. We didn't realise it because they put the hash in all these cookies. We had no idea, such as the naivety of the common Western traveller. And there we were, spaced out, man. What's happening? What's going on here, man? The next night, we had planned to go down near the border past Agadir, but the country came on high alert, and risky travel like that was now not recommended. You have to understand that in the 1950s and early 1960s, there was prosperity, relative harmony, and a reasonably stable environment in Africa. But after the early 1960s, with the development of anti-colonialism and the quest for independence and sovereignty, Africa digressed significantly over the next 3 decades, with more than, can you believe, 80 coups taking place. More than 80 coups in Africa taking place, 6 of which were in the year of 1972 when we were there. So not only were we embracing a new culture and its peculiarities, but we knew Africa was notorious for bloody military coups as well, and political unrest. And can you believe we arrived in Morocco in the middle of a bloody military coup by a military rebel faction. Apparently 4 fighter jets had just tried to shoot down King Hussein's private commercial jet. Can you believe? Killed 8 and wounded 40, but they managed to land at Kenitra Military Air Force Base just 2 or 3 weeks before we arrived there. So the place was still a political hotbed, but fortunately they seemed to somehow leave the hippie surfies alone, so we just kept on going up and down the coast finding surf, and they left us alone. next day we head on down to Casablanca on our way to Marrakesh because we wanted to go to Marrakesh. Been to Labar, now I want to go to Marrakesh. We had Kathmandu and we also had Jeffreys Bay that we wanted to go to, so I'm heading towards my second port of call, the second place that we wanted to go to, Marrakesh, firmly in our sights. But let's stop at Casablanca on the way. Have a little bit of a Casablancan Moroccan nightlife experience. Let's find out what the locals do at night. So we went to a little hotel, kind of a really sort of traditional Moroccan hotel, Moroccan building with sort of few windows and muddy sort of appearance, that type of thing. And we were in a sort of a bit of an isolated area of Casablanca. Here was this little hotel, and we thought, well, we're the only Westerners around, so let's just, it had been quite fun so far. We had good times. We enjoyed ourselves. It was a little bit intimidating here and there, but we were enjoying Morocco. And here we were in a little isolated area of Casablanca, going to this hotel to have a Moroccan hotel nightlife experience. And we felt that we had kind of tuned into the local vibe, if you like, and thought, let's stretch our legs a little bit and experience some of the general local flavour. Let's find out how the Moroccans do Moroccan nightlife. Well, little did I know that the next day my brother's words would be ringing in my ears. Like, Morocco's gonna scare the crap out of you. So we decided to go to this little hotel, this little Moroccan hotel, to experience a bit of Moroccan nightlife. Apparently there was a guy in there whom they called the drummer, who was particularly good on the bongo drums. And so we thought, wow, that would be pretty cool to go and hear a guy playing the bongo drums. In fact, he was very good. I can understand why people would go and hear him, because he was particularly good on those bongo drums. And apparently the performance was to take place in this upper room, which only had one door and one window in it, one small window, at the end of a long, elongated room. But there was a wooden staircase going up to this room, and at the top of the staircase was this one wooden door. We asked the old man sitting at the bottom of the staircase, where is the guy that plays the bongo drums in our pure French, bongo drums? And he goes, up the stairs. We looked up there, looked a little bit on the dodgy side, this wooden staircase going up, and at the top there was just this one door into the room. So anyway, we thought, well, let's have a Moroccan experience. So we slowly negotiated our way up the staircase. Climbed up the staircase, got to the top of the staircase, peered in the door, and we were greeted with a very unfamiliar looking setup. This is quite strange, this is unusual. This is a Moroccan nightlife experience, nighttime experience. Okay. We thought, is this how they do hotel in Morocco? Is this a Moroccan hotel experience? In fact, is this really a hotel? Peering in the room, there were no chairs in the room. There was, in the middle of the room, two extremely large water bubble pipes. You know, those smoking bubble pipes. In the middle of the room, two of these bubble pipes. And about at least 20 men sitting elongated, in an elongated circle, lotus fashion, with their, you know how they do it in yoga, they put their feet under them and, you know, lotus fashion, all around in a big circle around these bubble pipes. The room was dense with smoke, and we're looking in there, and all we see is this big circle of guys around these two bubble pipes. The drummer man sees us, and he goes, come on, you know, like in French or Arabic, come on, sit here. So we comply, we go over, and he separates these two to sit there. So we sit between these two guys near the drummer man, who's just under this window, right on the other side of the room from the door, in this big circle. And we squeeze in there, and we get in position, and we're thinking, this is our Moroccan experience. This is very unusual. So we finally get settled down directly opposite that one single door into the room, on the other side of the room. We settle down there, and the Moroccan drummer, the drummer man, starts to play on his bongo drums. And it was really good playing. It was, excellent melodic, rhythmic, somewhat hypnotic music, but he was playing away there, and it was fantastic. And we thought, well, we're going to have a Moroccan experience. We're going to experience the local flavour. We're going to do what the Moroccans do. This is our Moroccan nightlife hotel experience. And what happens was, the idea of being in that room was that there was these two bubble pipes in the middle of the room, and they would pass it to you, and you'd take a little puff and you'd hand it on to the next person, and that was your Moroccan hotel nightlife experience. Was that you sat in this room and listened to the drummer and just smoked this bubble pipe. Of course, we realised after just a couple of puffs that there was more than just tobacco in that bubble pipe. There was obviously hashish in that bubble pipe, which was quite legal at that time in Morocco. You could go into any public area and smoke hashish. That was what they did. So we were having our Moroccan experience. We were trying to have little puffs. We didn't want to have too big of puffs. But we had been smokers in earlier days, so it was not unusual for us to be around that smoky sort of atmosphere. But it just kept getting passed around and passed around. The mouthpiece would get passed to us. We'd have a little puff, pass it on to the next person, and we'd go around and around, and half an hour later we're still getting this mouthpiece passed around to us. You have a tiny little puff, and starting to feel a little bit sort of, far out, man, this music sounds really good, man. And it keeps getting passed around, and we have a puff and passed around. An hour goes by. We're having our Moroccan hotel experience. I expected there to be, have a beer or something like that, but no, this is the Moroccan hotel experience apparently. Mouth keeps getting passed around, have a puff, passed around. After about an hour and a half, we're getting all floaty and sort of, oh wow, man, this is really cool. But the music was great, man. This drummer was so good. And I look up, and I notice all these men are staring at my wife. Now, why am I not surprised? One nice looking woman in a room with 20 men, what would you expect? I look up and they're all looking at my wife. And of course this became a little bit more unnerving when a little bit of finger pointing started and a bit of laughing, and everybody looking at my wife and finger pointing and laughing. And we just smiled back, hoping that it would go away, that this would dissipate, that we're just having fun. That's what we were thinking. And of course by this time we were getting really zonked, man. So was everybody in the room. But I thought, I guess this is their normal nighttime Moroccan experience. This is what they do, have a bit of a laugh and point at one another. I thought that's what they do, that's how they carry on. The music was starting to get very hypnotic, and the atmosphere was kind of calm and controlled, and these guys were finger pointing, and it was, yeah, I know what you're thinking, boys. little laugh, little giggle, It started to get a little bit unnerving. They were all looking at her and started to point to her. Point to my wife, point to Paula, they're pointing and laughing. Hey guys, settle down here, When suddenly, these two guys jump up right in front of us and start this argument in front of us, right in front of the door. As these two guys start to argue and pushing one another and getting really aggressive, really screaming at one another, yelling at one another. And we're sitting there, what the hell's going on here, man? 5 seconds ago it was nice and peaceful. Now there's this fight erupting. And we're sitting there scaring the crap out of us, man. We're like, oh wow, man. And suddenly there's this cop going on in front of us. This is freaking us out, man. And these two guys were pushing one another and yelling one another and pointing at Paula at the same time. So obviously we knew what the argument was about. The argument was about my wife. Oh, this is very, very disturbing, man. And it was made very clear that there was a real problem here when a third guy jumps up, joins the other two guys in this argument, and the three of them are arguing and pushing one another and shoving one another and pointing at one another. And we're just sitting there, we're going, what the hell are we going to do here, man? The three of them are arguing and fighting in front of this one door, the only way out. And they're yelling and screaming one another and pointing at Paula, and I just sit there and I'm freaking out, and Paula's freaking out, and we're going. And I just said to Paula, we got to get the hell out of here. We've got to get out of here now. We're just going to have to make a run for it. You go first, I'll follow behind. I'll try and protect you as best I can, but we've got to get the hell out of here now. I'm whispering this to them. And I said to her, when I say go, we're just going to have to bolt. Just go for the door and try and get through these guys. So, ready, I'm waiting there, and I'm shaking like this. 20 guys in the room, shaking like this. And I was just about to say to Paula, right, and we were going to jump up and run and see, do the best we could to try and get in. When suddenly, this guy comes running up the staircase, yelling and screaming, runs into the room, pushes these three guys out of the road, and screams and yells and bashes this guy, and he's screaming and yelling, and then he looks at us and he goes, get out, like this in French, telling us to get out of the room. And we're thinking, right, you don't have to ask us twice, man. We were out of that room, we bolted for that door, we dived out through that door, man, we pushed our way through them, and we were out of there. This guy, I can hear him, still screaming and yelling, fighting these guys upstairs. We were gone, man. We were out that front door, and then, man, we're out of there. Oh boy. We noticed as we were pushing through that door and rushing down the stairs that suddenly everybody was getting involved. It wasn't just the three guys anymore. Everybody was involved, and we're like, we're out of there, man. Oh my goodness. Is this what a Moroccan experience is like? This is what they do every night. And we're driving down the road there thinking about, this is just chaos down the road there, and we're thinking about Marrakesh, which we were going to go to tomorrow. We thought, I go Marrakesh, man, we're not going to Marrakesh. This is as far as we're going, Casablanca, and we're on our way back up the coast. Back at this place, man, this is way too scary, we thought. We don't want this to happen again. This is way too scary. So we're driving down the road there, and we're, shaking away there, and we thought to ourselves, talking to ourselves, we go, I wonder who that guy was that came running up the stairs. Must have been the owner or an authority figure or manager or somebody like that, because he was certainly thinking about us, looking after our best interests. We were so grateful to that guy that night. Oh my goodness. We are so thankful for him. Oh dear, what an experience. And so we're driving away, we're heading up the coast, again in the middle of the night. We find this little quiet, little small seaside village, pull in, man, we're still like this, and we pull into this village and we think, oh, we've driven far enough now. We took a few deep breaths, sighed, and bang, we just crashed, man. All that adrenaline and hashish and tobacco smoke and all the smoke in the room, and it's just not a good mix, man. Oh, we were just like, we were nervous wrecks. So we just crashed, bang, we're gone. In the morning we woke up, it just seemed like a dream. Did this really happen? We were so wound up last night, and here we are now, just relaxed, just waking up. And we thought about last night, and we thought to ourselves, is it all over now? Are we just going to go up north, head towards Europe again, and just leave these Arab countries behind. Forget Morocco. Is that the plan now? I thought, oh, what a relief that would be, just get out of this place, get out of Morocco. However, we find that we're going to be confronted by one of the biggest decisions of our life very shortly, and it was just up the road. Well, as we continued to head north the next day, heading for Rabat, once again, heading back up north again, I began to ponder about what a topsy-turvy ride adventure can throw up at you. You know, you have 1 minute exhilaration, the next minute anxiety and fear. Adventure seems to be a mixture of all emotions, doesn't it? You know, a real up and down journey. 1 minute exhilaration, the next minute anxiety and fear. It's amazing. It's a real up and down journey, alright. But I guess that's what adventure is all about, isn't it? The unknown, the unexpected, the highs and the lows, that's what it's all about. And I was just pondering all these things as we slowly rolled into the town of Rabat in northern Morocco, and decided it was now time for a lunch break. We need to stop. Time to relax. Put the jug on, make a nice cup of coffee, put our feet up, and just breathe in the fresh air and enjoy the moment. Oh, nice relax. I wasn't even thinking about the future. Wasn't pondering our next move. I was just enjoying the moment. You know, a cup of coffee in hand, drowsily enjoying the solitude and the peacefulness, and my eyes slowly rolled around and focused on the road up ahead, as you do. And I saw something that literally just stopped me in my tracks. That got me a little bit nervous again. That kept me motionless, transfixed on what I saw up ahead. And it slowly began to register the enormity of what I was looking at. And the adventure and the enormity of emotions and expectations and survival and instincts and all that sort of thing. The unknown, all those things just flooded all over me. Oh my goodness. And at the same time, an incredible and astounding sense of opportunity as well, to experience something that our generation was really searching for, an experience to end all experiences. Perhaps that's what I was thinking. So all these things are flooding over my mind and my emotions. Maybe it's an adventure to top all adventures. All these things began running through my head as I was focusing on what I was seeing up ahead. I continued to look transfixed, and quite suddenly I was jolted into a position of realizing that very shortly we're going to be confronted by a decision that's either going to lead to safety and security and familiarity, or a decision that could well lead to an adventure of monumental proportions into an unknown world of excitement and fear, euphoria, anxiety, tranquility and isolation. Oh my goodness, and that decision was just 100 metres up the road. I said to Paula, just have a look at what's up the road. She peered out and, just like me, realised the enormity of the decision that we may well have to make in just a few minutes. I began to check that if we were to make a decision that would put us at such risk, had we thought of everything? Had we missed something? Had we forgotten something? I asked Paula, same question. She seemed confident enough. Got our maps, visas, food, medicine, inoculations, gas, water, all those sort of things. Yes. I had to admit as well that everything else seemed to reasonably come up to scratch on my end as well. It kind of met the suggested requirements in terms of the getting the vehicle ready for a great adventure. We had done with the best with what we had, even though the vehicle was underpowered, two-wheel drive vehicle. We did the best with what we had. So, yeah, we kind of met the requirements. Well, let's be real. Of course we know the vehicle is totally inadequate. We know that, but oh, what the hell. We'll never know unless we try, will we? We'll always be wondering. That's what we were thinking. We'll always be wondering. We'll never know unless we try, will we? We took the easy road. We'll never know. So, with great trepidation and apprehension, we began to slowly drive up to the fork in the road that just lay ahead of us. And as we approached the fork in the road, we found ourselves slowly veering to the right. And I guess the decision had already been made when we were drinking our coffee earlier on, half an hour ago. Driving down this now unfamiliar road seemed somehow just the right thing to do. It just seemed right that we were doing the right thing. You tend to go through a weird range of emotions as you move into a whole new adventure in life. You kind of momentarily feel great about your decision, for about 5 minutes. Wow, we're on our way. Let's hit this adventure head on. Let's have an adventure to beat all adventures. That's what you're thinking. You're on such a high. Let's go. Let's do it. For about 5 minutes. Then you begin to doubt. Begin to run everything through your mind, the what ifs and did I forget something? Was there anything I missed? That type of thing. Oh my goodness. A million concerns start flowing through your head. Did I put in? Were we going to have enough money? We've got 22,000 kilometres to go, Oh my goodness. Your mind's just going at 100 miles an hour. And suddenly, you look at the clock and realise, hey, we've been driving for an hour. Amazing. Like an hour of torture. But it's incredible how quickly an hour can pass. But you also have in the back of your mind that you also haven't progressed so far enough yet that should you change your mind, you can easily just turn back if you want to. There's still that in the back of your mind. We haven't progressed far enough yet that we could turn back if we wanted to. But when the 2-hour mark comes up and you're now driving through a major town, the town of Meknes, and there's been no mishaps, no problems, no confrontations, no misgivings, you morph into a strange sort of normality that this is all normal, this is what we expected, this is the way it's supposed to be. You just take in the fact that everything you are looking at is completely foreign to you. Of course it is. But why wouldn't it be? You keep thinking to yourself, this is a foreign country we're going through. Why wouldn't it be foreign to us? The road signs are all in Arabic and French, of course. All the buildings are in the classic Arabic style, naturally enough. The terrain is barren, yes, so that's what expected. Everything is as you expected. And so we continue on through another small town called Fez.
A setting with its roots steeped just as deeply in history is Morocco, and symbolic of the country as a whole is the oldest of the 4 imperial cities, Fez. All around are monuments of beauty, but it is in the souks or markets, said to be the most colourful and animated in all Morocco, that one finds the vibrant pulse of the real city and its people.
And continued on our way up towards the Algerian border. Suddenly a strange sensation embraces you after about 3 hours of driving. You suddenly realise that this 25,000 kilometre journey is now actually for real. We're actually going to attempt to cross the mighty 10 million square kilometre barren and hostile Sahara Desert. That's what you're thinking to yourself. This is actually for real now. We're actually going to be driving through the deep, dark African jungles. Wow. The savannah of the Serengeti. Oh my goodness. The enormity of it is just about too much to take in. So you kind of snap back to the moment. You just can't take it all in. You snap back to the moment, to the present, and you realise that South Africa is still 5 months away, and your attention becomes focused again on the now. You snap back to the on the now, and we will stay on the now for the next 5 months. So I guess the next step for us was acclimatising ourselves to this brand new culture and not feeling intimidated by this Arab world, and particularly Islam. We knew nothing about the Islamic world. We came from a recognised Christian country, New Zealand, and that was all we knew. The Islamic world was completely foreign to us. We had no understanding of it at all, and all its customs, of course. And it also happened to be the month of Ramadan when we were driving towards Algiers. And of course there were daily prayer calls and minarets and burqas and all this sort of stuff. So foreign to us. Coming from a Christian country, New Zealand, we had no idea what was happening. It was just so foreign to these two little farm kids from New Zealand. I mean, we were still young people. And as I look back nearly 50 years now, I realise, man, how raw and inexperienced we really were, really honestly. Excuse me. Anyway, the architecture and the landscape seemed to us to have an enormous amount of medieval history about it, obviously. And of course, we found it incredibly intriguing, as you do, and extremely stimulating. As we sort of continued on towards the Algerian border, it was fascinating. This obviously, it was so noticeable to us that there was very little that we were familiar with. It was just like driving through a totally foreign culture, foreign landscape. And of course it was exactly that, a totally foreign culture, obviously. The weird part about that, as we reached the Algerian border post, is that you somehow feel that you're at the mercy of another culture. The protocols and the dress sense and the gender roles and what's right and wrong behaviour, all those sort of things. Feel like you're at the mercy of this culture that you're now driving through. The other consideration is that you begin to run through your mind the self-preservation issue. Because we were well aware that just 6 or 7 years before that there was a very strong anti-Western feeling in Algeria, which is not surprising. The country just fought for independence, so why wouldn't there be an anti-Western feeling? And apparently it was not uncommon to see lynch mobs and fleeing Westerners just 6 or 7 years earlier in Algeria. So we knew clearly that there would be a strong anti-Western feeling amongst the locals. We knew that. And so for that very reason, after we negotiated the border entry, we decided that maybe we should avoid Algiers altogether and perhaps take a more southeastern route to a place called Ain Kassir, because we were country people, and country people always seem to us to be a little more tolerant and friendly. And so we ignored the suggestion that the AA gave us, the Automobile Association, to continue on to Algiers and stock up and then head south. And we found our own roads in the more isolated country areas. And I'm sure most of these roads were very infrequently or rarely visited by Westerners, because we never saw any hint of anything Western as we began to drive east. However, after about 3 hours driving, and it was around lunchtime, we decided that, as we've done every day, how about we just stop for a coffee break now? It's time for a coffee break. And to just pull over somewhere and have a break. Didn't seem to be a populated area, a little isolated. And so we thought, well, this is a nice little quiet place for a break. And so we pulled over on the side of the road, and as Paula began to fix up lunch, I began to do some repairs and checks on the combi, as I did every day. And I was under the combi checking all the oil leaks, because there was lots of oil leaks I had to check every day, when I looked up, and in front of me was a bunch of Arab kids. quite surprisingly dressed in Westerners' clothes. Westerners' clothes? Wow. So I got up from under the car and proceeded to, in a friendly manner, try and communicate with these kids. I shook their hands, and Paula and I both noticed their condition. They gave off an odour, their clothes were dirty, and they had very noticeable nits and head lice in their hair, very noticeable. No doubt from a low socio-economic group. However, Paula, being the compassionate person that she is, 30 seconds later had them all leaning over our water bowl and proceeded to do an anti-nit, anti-head lice program, washing their hair and cleaning them up a bit, which was fantastic. The funny thing was that just our interaction with these Arab kids and their warm response back to us actually alleviated a lot of our fears about this Arab world. I have to admit, when I first saw them, I had some apprehension. Are they going to steal stuff? That type of thing. Or perhaps there were bigger people hiding close by behind a bush or something. I don't know. All these funny things start going through your mind. But the truth was, these were really nice kids. Friendly and warm and great kids. And we were greatly encouraged by this as we sort of drove off down the road and continued on our journey east. We were greatly encouraged by this. These were great kids. The only negative that became very obvious to us was the communication. They spoke Arabic. And so we figured for the next 5 months we're going to have this frustrating problem, language problem. In Morocco, that seemed a little more westernised, you would generally bump into some English-speaking Europeans or English-speaking Moroccans. And also there was quite a large American military base there too, which no doubt had some sort of Western influence in Morocco. But where we were headed to, the presence of English-speaking Europeans was virtually zero. And as we continued to take these back roads to Ankassira, it even became more noticeable. And some of the situations that we were soon going to find ourselves in the not too far distant future, oh my goodness, knowing the local language would have saved us a hell of a lot of heartache and stress and tension, believe me. And also our theory about safe country life, which we grew up with in sleepy old New Zealand in the 1950s and 1960s. That theory 3 days later was about to be sorely tested, believe me, leaving us with a whole new opinion of safe country life. You have to realise that in 1972, nearly 50 years ago now, Africa was majorly underdeveloped. In fact, this is Dubai in 2016. See that? And this is how today you somehow imagine Africa to look even 25 years ago. But in fact, the face of Africa was dramatically different even 25 years ago. Here is Dubai in the early 1990s. And here it is 50 years ago when the Sahara trip you're watching was done. Nearly 50 years ago. And again in 2018. What a dramatic difference. So this is the environment that we were subject to 50 years ago. And as you can see, it was dramatically different than it is today, believe me. And so our first night in Algeria went without mishap, and so too the second night as we reached the outskirts of the little town of Ankassira, where we bedded down for the night. Everything was sweet. We were even playing our collection of cassette tapes, can you believe, and enjoying life, turning the music up and having a nice meal, a cup of coffee, that type of thing. Oh, fantastic. It felt really good, man. It was so nice having these newfangled things called cassette tapes as well. Because 3 or 4 years earlier, we were often playing vinyl records on a record player in our cars. Not cassette tapes, vinyl records. And man, did those records get wrecked and scratched and buckled. Oh man, those are the days. We'd sit the record player up on the back, up near the back window. Oh man, the sun would be on the records and the bumps would scratch the records every time we went over a bump. That was fun, man. That was the days. The next morning, suddenly it hit us. Up until now, it seemed like we were on our way. Our adventure had begun, and we were just going through the motions. However, as we sat there with our cup of coffee, just contemplating our next move, the full realization of what we were about to do just suddenly overwhelmed us. Everything seemed, up until now, seemed so expectedly familiar. People, houses, countryside, vehicles, that sort of thing, you know. But now, as we envisage a 10 million square kilometre, larger than the whole of North America, hostile, barren, and scary, uninhabited, intimidating Sahara desert, suddenly we realised this was now the real decision. Once we drove out of here on the road south, then we're committed. We were in an unsuitable, underpowered vehicle, we know that. We were alone, no convoy, oh dear. And as I sat there, dread just suddenly came over me as I realised we had forgotten to get ourselves a compass too. Well, I'd forgotten to get a compass. We didn't have a compass. But there were a couple of little towns a little bit further on, so perhaps we might find one there, hopefully. But how dumb. We didn't have a compass, and we didn't have a convoy. We were alone, just the two of us. We packed up, cleaned up, and then finally jumped in the front of the vehicle and started the motor and slowly drove out of our little overnight campsite. It was very quiet. Oh, I'm driving a bit slowly. We were just looking straight ahead, realising that now this was the real deal. We were down to about $1,200 US dollars, and which was about $3,500 short of what they suggested. And most everything on the vehicle was an improvisation, as you know, a substitute, a makeshift substitute. And so all these thoughts were bouncing around in my head, but we just continued to drive, heading south to our next destination, the town of Serengeti, which was about 200 kilometres further south. So as we continued on our journey south, we began to notice a significant deterioration in the roads. The roads became narrower, tar seal began to peter out around about 100 kilometres south of Algeria, and when we came within about 40 kilometres of Serengeti, we decided to camp in an area that had a few small trees around it, so not to be too conspicuous. The terrain was now barren, and it was pretty rocky apart from a few trees that we were parked near, but it was certainly, we were experiencing French Sahara conditions, no question about that. Of course, it was just like we expected. Rocky terrain, metal roads, and a barren landscape, that type of thing. Although we realised at this point, the middle of the Sahara was still more than 1,000 kilometres away. That's just the middle of the Sahara. And man, that seems such a daunting thought. The middle of the Sahara is still 1,000 kilometres away. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we figured because we were still 40 kilometres away from civilization, from the little town of Serengeti that we were travelling to, and that the terrain was pretty well open country and completely isolated, that, well, this would be a good place for us to camp for the night, under these trees. So Paula began putting on dinner, and I began my daily ritual of checking various parts of the vehicle, which I did every day. And I also at this time thought I'd have a bit of a practice of throwing my Bowie knife. Into a tree. I brought along a Bowie knife, and I thought, this might help with our protection, so I had this Bowie knife, and I was practicing throwing it into a tree. So I'm out there, a few metres away from the van, probably 10 metres away from the van, and I'm throwing this Bowie knife into the tree. Having a good practice. We're out there by ourselves. Here I am with my Bowie knife throwing it into a tree. And suddenly, I look and I notice this little white figure go running between these two trees, and I go, what was that? I thought I saw somebody run between two. We're out here in the barren landscape by ourselves, and I see this white figure run between these two trees. What's that? I pretended I didn't see and quickly ran over to a small bush nearby and hid behind it, just to see if I was imagining it or not. Just to see, did I see what I saw? Did I see someone run between the trees? When suddenly I saw another in black run between the trees. And then a third figure stealthily sneaking between the trees. And I'm thinking, man, this is isolated out here. Nothing but a barren, rocky landscape for more than 100 kilometres. These guys must have been following us, surely. Unnoticed, sneaky stuff. This is scary stuff, man. They began to stealthily move towards the van, tree by tree, where Paula was making dinner, having no knowledge whatsoever about what was going on, totally oblivious to the fact that there were 3 men with no doubt evil intent no more than 10 metres away from the combi. And they seemed definitely unaware that I was watching them from behind a bush some sort of 20 metres away. It seemed as though they didn't even realise that I was there. So that was good, but I was there and all these scenarios were running through my head, 1,000 scenarios running through my head. What the hell do I do here? How do I deal with this? I was thrashing all these things out of my mind. What do I do? What do I do? As I slowly got within about 5 metres of the van. And as my mind was trying to rationalise all this and find a solution, my instinct suddenly overrode my thoughts, and I instinctively jumped up with a blood-curdling cry, throwing knife firmly in a lethal position, and ran towards these 3 guys, screaming their head off, swearing blue murder, and looked like some crazy lunatic who was about to do somebody some serious harm. And of course, as anyone would do when some crazy lunatic lunged at you with a large knife, they took off. And they ran about 30 metres away until they regathered themselves and menacingly turned back towards the combi again, by which time, of course, I was screaming at Paula, hold on, close the door. I jump in the driver's seat, sweating like hell if the thing would start. Come on, baby, let's do ignition. Come on, baby, start. Thankfully it did, and we just hightailed it out there. I could see them in the mirror as we were driving off, and they were certainly holding something in their hands. I don't know if they were knives or not, but it was scaring the crap out of me. I tell you, man, my adrenaline was right through the roof. I felt if that van hadn't have started, I could have just picked it up on my shoulder and ran off with it. Oh, I was so pumped up, mate. Oh my goodness. I was so on edge, the adrenaline was pumping through me. Oh my goodness. Paula, of course, was in the back there, holding on to the pots and the pans and the hot water and everything, and we were driving across that terrain there going towards the road. I was heading towards the road and I didn't care how we were going to get to the road, man. I was bouncing, we were going all over the place, I'm going to get back to that road, man. And Paula's holding on to the pots like this and the hot water. So we drive another further 25 kilometres towards Lagut. So we were off the stony road that we'd been driving down. It was a stony road by that stage, good 100 metres off that stony road, and nicely tucked under this one single tree in this rocky sort of terrain. I nervously did checks outside every 10 minutes, as you can imagine. Every 10 minutes I was outside checking it. Can't see anything. Doesn't seem to be a problem. There was nothing visible anywhere. It was a moonlight night, and visually you could see right to the horizon, which was great. So I'm out there every 10 minutes having a look. No, I can't see anything right. I can see right to the horizon. Barren, open landscape, couldn't see anything. So we felt a bit better about it. 2 hours passed, and we began to feel a little bit more comfortable about it all. 3 hours passed. It was now about 10 p.m. and man, we were so exhausted, naturally enough, after our somewhat frightening encounter, and we were ready for bed. Haven't seen anything for hours, and we were stuffed, so we just thought, oh well, let's call it a night. Let's just crash. So we lay down there.